Parsing the Mayhem, where I attempted to try and bring some kind of order to what was going on in the advertising technology landscape. Now, turns out that that was exactly 147 days ago. And in that time, the presentation, which I loaded the slideshare, has been viewed over 28,000 times. Lord knows why, but for such an esoteric topic, clearly this has caught on. And I've also sort of crisscrossed the country, the globe. I've flown over 99,000 miles, and I'm conducting 212 meetings with many of the leaders, the strategic leaders in media, marketing, technology, data, communications, about this particular topic. I've also participated in, through this week in 14 conferences, including launching our own CEO conference called the Digital Media Summit, talking about these topics. And of course, there's the substance and there's the fun. And so I produced 4 comedy videos. I'm sure you're familiar with some of them. And stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Coming this fall, Don't Stop Competing is an interesting one you should be on the lookout for. In the meantime, also did a little business along the way, completed 3 transactions in the space, and I will tell you the pipeline is looking robust, so I think we're going to have a very active fall. Obviously went through 2 bottles of Visine and took the month of August, rather than to relax, instead I launched a company. So Luma Partners is a new firm, again, as Randall said, advising media and technology. So let's get into it. What did I learn from this summer travels and conversations with many of these strategics and, of course, target companies? So obviously we have the landscape, and last night posted to Ad Exchanger the sort of new Luma ad tech, display ad tech landscape, which oddly enough has actually more companies. So while we were really looking for consolidation, turns out there's now over 214 companies in these categories. One of the things that I mentioned at the Ad Exchanger was to caveat that yes, there's one thing that we can guarantee, and that is that this is wrong. It'll never be perfect. You can't categorize everything together into particular categories. There's many sort of differentiations among categories. That said, it's an attempt to try and understand it. So let's talk about implications for this landscape going forward. If you think about it, one of the points I made 4 months ago was that there are too many point solutions here, and that it needs to amalgamate. So we think of, you know, a demand-side platform. That acronym, wrongly sort of applied to just companies that do the media buying on exchanges, really should apply to companies that have a broader service offering on the demand side. That may include the planning, the buying, the analytics, and the creative, and bringing in the sort of the data to do the optimization. On the other side, you've got the the sell side, or the acronym that's now come about is SSP, but we're really not sure what an SSP is yet. Is it just inventory aggregation? Surely it's more than that. And there's also tools on the publisher side, and even some of those companies are getting into the data business. Then, of course, there is the DMP, or the data management platform companies that are either supplying the data, aggregating the data, selling the data, or doing some value-added services. And note that the data players overlap with each of the demand side and the supply side, something we'll be talking more about in a minute. And then finally, the infrastructure players, really, really important to talk about sort of how these guys play across this whole ecosystem. So today, there is only one company that has a sort of ubiquitous presence across this landscape, and that's Google. And they were able to accomplish that with a series of acquisitions which gave them the capabilities from end to end, from demand, exchange, and supply, and I think you'll be seeing some more moves from them potentially. Now, so the question is, who's going to be the number 2? Which company has got the best shot at sort of anchoring a number 2 position to Google? I would suggest that one of the things that allowed Google its presence was this ubiquitous presence with premium publishers. And they only accomplished that with the acquisition of DoubleClick. So what kind of companies have a technology base, have an installed base with premium publishers that's as ubiquitous as, say, a DoubleClick? Well, I would submit Adobe, with its Omniture products and its Adobe software, has that kind of a presence. Akamai, on the video side, basically is a service provider to almost every major premium publisher. You've got, obviously, Microsoft. That probably has a 100% presence amongst premium publishers, again, on the software side. And then I would also throw in Yahoo. Not exactly the same from a tech provider, but they certainly have assets in the space that span multiple categories and could be a major player. Of course, these are perhaps some of the more obvious candidates. Some of them are not exactly in our sphere, but there could be another set of players. I call it Apple Book. New guys that are coming in to the game with very, very substantial assets and networks and platform capabilities, which I'm sure are going to play a major role in this landscape. So, other implications for the landscape. So, this is only an $8 billion market, and so you may say that's small, but with search together, digital forms a $25 billion market, and ultimately all this media is going to be digitally addressable. So you've got TV, which is the big one, and of course print, radio, out-of-home, and all the other channels. And if you think about it, the advertiser really has to solve for a number of things across all media. They need to allocate their media, not just within digital, but amongst all the different media channels. They also need to optimize both within and across channels so that they solve for what is today a problem of last-click attribution. So this serves the point that we are way beyond just this $8 billion online display business. This is actually a potentially much larger marketplace. In fact, I would argue all media will be the sort of opportunity set for the companies that are learning in the online space. And it's more than just advertising. So you've got display and search coming together, content, both content discovery and content creation are both aspects that can be informed by all of this targeted display media. E-commerce, you just heard about e-commerce coming from social as being the bottom of the funnel of the display space. Even CRM and product design are informed by data collected at the display layer. A couple observations about each of the component parts. So implications for infrastructure companies, think about it. The software world got a lot better once there was a Microsoft Windows operating system. Same thing with the apps on the iPhone base. I would argue that amongst the tasks of data allocation, planning, buying, traffic, audit, billing, and analytics all should be part of a single sort of software package. So I believe that in order to really spur on the growth of this sector, advertising needs an operating system. Implications for the demand side. Well, it used to be DSPs sort of got all this fanfare in the spring, and now is everyone a DSP or a DMP? The DSPs, I would argue, have a lot of competition. There are players in both the creative dynamic and ad optimization, and in the data space, even the ad networks, in particular the ad networks. If you think of what a DSP is and what an ad network is, an ad network has basically got all the same capabilities and then some. And even the yield optimizer. So I think that the demand side is going to get a lot more competition. Implications for the supply side, think about the relationship of data between advertiser and publisher. It used to be that the publishers owned the audience, and the traditional way it went was, you had to basically go to the publisher to get to your audience. In a sort of audience-targeted world, the advertiser goes straight to your audience, potentially even bypassing the publisher. And so this notion that publishers should sell their data freely, I think is heretical, because what would happen? You would essentially build a superhighway to your audience, bypassing the publisher. So what can the publisher do? Well, there's a variety of things that they can do. There's a lot of ways that you can play with data. There's obviously the data exchanges. That's putting all your data out there for everyone to utilize. Increasingly, companies are getting together to arrange data co-ops, where you start to put up some walls around your data so that not everyone can access your data. And there's some great examples of that. And finally, So some DMPs are offering services to single publishers to keep a wall around their data to maximize the value just for them. And what am I talking about in terms of maximizing the value? Well, most publishers have Tier 1 and Tier 2 inventory. And they define this as the difference between what the sales force, what the sales force sells, that's defined as Tier 1, everything else being Tier 2 or bargain basement. Well, it turns out there's all kinds of inventory in that Tier 2 bucket that is quality, based on the audience who's going to see it. And so they can utilize the technologies of these more advanced targeting and optimization to basically change the Tier 2 inventory and bring it up towards potentially not Tier 1, but it's certainly premium. And that'll offset, at least partially, the degradation to Tier 1 pricing. And we've all talked about M&A and how, besides the usual suspects, we're seeing this outlier category. IBM has had a very busy summer, making 3 acquisitions in the space, and there are many other companies that are investigating it as well. Which is why I formed Luma Partners to have a more sort of strategic approach. So I call it sort of I analogize it to the purchase funnel, and I say, well, most bankers sort of operate below the line, just running the process and selling a transaction. What I'm trying to do is add value up funnel by talking to the strategics about identifying appropriate fits, and therefore representing companies that are being bought as opposed to being sold. It's a huge difference. And so ultimately we work in the middle of everybody to make the system work better. And so finally, to end, I know you're all saying that's all well and good, Terry, but where's the video? And listen, I'm working on this bigger video. It'll be out a little bit later. I had a busy summer. I launched a company, did a couple of deals. However, I will say that there's one thing I decided Luma Partners is going to do, very different from many other investment banks, of course. The IAB Mix Awards, quality creative. And I decided, well, I've already done these viral videos demonstrating social, so why not get into the advertising business? So ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy, I'm embarrassed, the premiere of the Luma Partners 30-second spot. Roll tape.
Hello, clients. Take a look at your typical investment banker. Now back to me. Now back to the banker. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped hanging around the hoop and worked out funnel, he could add value like me. Look down, back up. Where are you? You're in a boardroom with the advisor your banker doesn't act like. What's in your hand? Back at me. I have it. It's a term sheet with an offer at multiples of your last funding round. Look again. The term sheet is now cash. Anything is possible when you hire the right strategic advisor and not just a banker. I'm on a BlackBerry.